Hey everybody, welcome back. I am your host, Joe JDF Oscar, and today I'm going to talk about Street Fighter V. Now, as many know, on February 14th, the new upgrade system where it goes to the Champion Edition of the game comes out. Now, and this past weekend, I competed in my first online Mortal Kombat, not Mortal Kombat, but Street Fighter tournament in the open beta test tournament that happened, like I said, this past weekend. Well, anyways, I noticed some things before the tournament and that people talked about during the tournament as well. And I'd also like to discuss what I like. I'm going to discuss different things about the game. Well, one of the likes to Street Fighter V that I've enjoyed, because I'll be honest, I didn't play Street Fighter after, I can't remember if it was the Alphas or the Capcom Versus set came out back in the day. I mean, since I was like a teenager, I'd say probably since high school was the last time I played it, and that was early 2000s. But one thing I enjoyed about this one, since I got the game, because I already had the Mortal Kombat game and I enjoyed it, but I wanted to see, because this one had gotten rave reviews, and also when I found it, I saw that it was going to have an upgraded Champion Edition, so I thought it might be like Street Fighter 2 was, and when it upgraded to the Champion Edition, that meant new advantages and great things for it. Well, one of the things I found I enjoyed about the game is the challenges and missions in the game that it gives you, like completing so many special attacks on an opponent, or complete story mode, or the arcade mode. Just doing different things in it and seeing if I could actually do it. I'll admit there's been a number of them I haven't, but that's because I either didn't care enough to actually try for them, or I didn't know, or I don't actually fully know how to, as I've only had the game since around Christmas of 2019, and I'm still learning all of it. Also, this another thing I enjoyed about it is that it focuses more on the fighting rather than the extreme things like the blood and stuff that Mortal Kombat did. I liked Mortal Kombat for the blood, but some of its stuff seemed a little out there to me, and it threw stuff together way too much to cause damage. Whereas on Street Fighter, it took a little more skill to it. I still think King of Fighters had a better advantage on this when it came to figuring out your opponent, but this one does a really good job of it, and actually, as many know, Street Fighter was the earliest of the fighting game in that are still around. You had Street Fighter, you had Mortal Kombat, you had King of Fighters, originally known as Fatal Fury. I enjoyed all three. Then you had the other ones like Samurai Showdown, things like that, and those I wasn't as big a fan of. The Weapon Lord did come close. But anyways, back to my Street Fighter V things. And also, it's actually stated in by multiple people in different fighting areas: karate, Muay Thai, boxing, and some of these you can see on YouTube, and others were in interviews. But but Street Fighter was considered to be the most accurate with the fighting moves. Tekken was actually considered to be one of the worst for it. Mortal Kombat kind of fell in between, depending which character was being used. But again, I like Street Fighter because it hasn't really changed as much as people want to think it has. Yeah, it has a V-trigger 2 system. It has a V-trigger system. It has the EX moves that become now critical arts. Yeah, it has those things, but it's had those things for a while. Street Fighter 3 back in the 90s, you can even see it on Street Fighter 5. It actually lists the games in their story chronological order as to how they occur. And Street Fighter 3 is actually, story-wise, the last of the Mortal Kombat. I mean, not Mortal Kombat. Again, sorry. Keep getting tongue-tied with that. Street Fighter 3 is actually the last of the Street Fighter games in story chronological order when you play them. Not including the crossovers like Capcom versus or Street Fighter versus Tekken. But yeah, Street Fighter 3 from I think it's 97 was the date on it, was the last one in the list. Now on to the fun, because like everybody, I have my dislikes about the game as well. On this one, I don't know if it was on Street Fighter 4 or not, as I didn't play it. Like I said, the last time I played anything to do with Street Fighter like that, it was back in high school. In the early 2000s. But Chun-Li and Dhalsim have this fighting style that allows for them to actually sit down during the match and fight. While it seems like, yeah, that'd be giving them a disadvantage, it actually turns out to be more of an advantage for them, because the people attacking, majority of the characters can't do, I ain't sure if it's actually referred to as a high or hard type move, and they can't do their medium attacks either, because majority of them swing over the characters, or the move will completely miss them because they're sitting so low to the ground. But yet, which leaves you with only one option: doing low attacks or doing an aerial attack. Either way, the person sees this coming, they can block it and immediately punish you for it with the frame rate disadvantage that comes into play right afterwards. This actually reminds me of Street Fighter 2 back in the day, when they had what was known as turtle guiling, where a person could take Guile, have him go into a block form and crouch at the same time, and the opponent wouldn't be able to touch him, but at the same time, Guile could come right out of the move doing either the Sonic Boom or his somersault kick. And it basically just gave him a cheap advantage, which this to me is about the same, because Chun-Li and Dhalsim can do any one of the three: light or low, the medium, and the high or hard. Again, I'm not sure what the L and H actually stand for when it comes to those two areas, when it comes to the punching and kicking. But anyways, they can go to their strongest moves off of it and hit you, but you can't hit them with it either. But you can't hit them in return. Kind of seems to be like a cheap advantage. Then again, I have the same problem with Fang and his poison use, because he can hit you with a kick and then hit you with hit you with his little poison shots, and you're affected. You can block his kicks, the poison hits you, and there's still a chance you're going to be poisoned, which means your life still gets hurt by it. When I originally wanted to start this video, I was going to complain about Bison as well, but Bison's the same as he's always been. Same with Akuma and the character of Kage. They're all made to be overpowered naturally, so they kind of get a cheap advantage, but at least they were consistent with it. Sorry, I froze up. But anyways, another problem, and this wasn't just me that noticed this, but other gamers complained about this at times, that sometimes the controller won't be read by the game when they input the commands for the moves. It'll read it like they did, like if you roll forward with Ken twice, if you roll forward twice and press his kick button, it's supposed to do his critical art, or what would be his super move in other games. But anyways, when you do that, there's times that the game won't read that. And this has been done with other characters and noticed. So I don't know if Capcom's actually heard about this or not. but it was a big issue that was brought up. And then there's, I mean, it's not as big a difference, but it does affect gameplay at times because of that. Because a person could think their move's going to be done, but because the controller didn't read them as inputting the command correctly, because of it being a roll or a Z, and this is even people who use the thumbsticks rather than the joystick, rather than the control pad, have the same issue occur to them. So it's not just one or the other. It's happened on both. So Capcom might want to look into that a little bit. And now, earlier, when I first thought about creating this video, this was going to be one thing I brought up as a disadvantage, but actually, this I actually consider I've reconsidered, and that's the frame rate differences on attack and blocks for certain opponents when they face certain other characters. Where, like, some characters, if their move gets blocked, it puts them on like a plus or minus 2, depending on whether it hits or not. So if they hit, it's a plus 2, meaning they could probably pull off another hit before they get stopped, before the character could block it. But if the character blocks it, they turn around and get like a plus 4 or plus, and some of them get a higher one than that, just for blocking the move, and it allows for an ultimate like punishment type deal. But when I thought back on it, this actually reminds me more of the parrying of the system they used in Street Fighter 3, the parry system, where if you timed it just right, the person wouldn't be able to block, and you could punish them like crazy. So I don't actually consider the frame rate differences as big an issue as I did initially, after I've had time to think back on it. But one thing I do have a complaint about is the blocking system. There will be people who take like one hit on a person, and then they will turn around and either low block, do like a crouching block, or they'll just block the whole match. Where it does like chip damage, where it takes away little by little, but it doesn't take away a lot, as if the attack had actually hit. And some people will use this to their advantage and just block almost the whole match until the timer runs out, if they can. And it'll be like, oh, they win. And to me, that's just as bad as a person who spams their moves. And given I'm probably guilty of spamming a lot, but I try to at least figure out a way to do variations on it, where it'll be like, okay, I'm going to do a light version of the attack and throw this in there, or find a way to lead into it instead. But with the blocking, a person will throw up the block. There's no way to actually stop them from blocking. One thing I think Capcom could do is introduce a block breaker system to where like a person who blocks for so long during a match against a certain amount of move damage that would be caused, it could do like something in real life where a person who does that, their hands or their arms would suddenly start to hurt. And while they could still do their moves and be able to move, they wouldn't be able to block for a certain amount of time. Do it the same as the stun meter, only they wouldn't be stunned. Only they wouldn't be in that dazed and confused type mode. They would still be able to move and still be able to do their moves, but they wouldn't be able to block for that same amount of time that their stun would last. This, in turn, would allow for for the players to have to create a more strategy-based ideal around it, rather than just relying on that blocking and then turn around and punishing the character that much harder off of it. They would actually have to figure out ways to, how can I avoid blocking to where it won't punish me, but at the same time be able to counteract a person who throws in a hard move against me. And that takes care of my likes and dislikes for Street Fighter 5. Now, like I said, this past weekend, I did the open beta tournament held for North America. I participated in it. Did not win. Didn't make it past the second round of my block. My block section. But that was... The only reason I got to the second round is because the first round, the person didn't show up for the match. So I got moved ahead automatically because of it. And second round, person I faced, Crash Balmer, I think was the name that's used for their ID. I congratulate them because they were great. They would block, but they would not just block. They found a way to use their moves correctly in a way that they didn't have to rely on the block to save them. They used their move. They would block when they absolutely, well, not absolutely had to, but they would block only if it was necessary to avoid taking damage in that particular section, and then throw in the punishment that comes off of the frame rate difference. But at the same time, they were actually smart enough to know, hey, I need to know how to use my character so that I can do these moves and punish them correctly or catch them off guard in some way that it works. Also, I talked to some people online and on the PS4 in the party invite, and I had fun talking to them because we discussed characters and we got to have fun during it. And we'd even face each other before the tournament started so that we could try out our characters, try to figure out how can we change this to work against this, or how can we use this other character. I mean, we even tried other characters at times. It wasn't just one character, or majority of us did. I mean, well, I know I did for certain. I tried out Sakura, Ryu, and Ken. And even though I might be mispronouncing, I can't remember if it's Ryu or Ryu. I know it's dragon either way, is what the name translates to in at least one Asian language. But with him, Ken, and Sakura, I knew what I was doing. Because the characters are similar, even though they have some minor differences that make them more of a challenge to have to learn it. Like I said, I got to meet these people online and talk to them. Had fun with them before the tournament started, and then we all did the tournament. Given none of us won it, one of us made it further than the rest, but we all had fun with it because it wasn't just, and we could also, and anyways, one thing about the tournament is that there were some people who were complaining they had a serious amount of lag, and this may have happened. I'm not sure, but or they were accused of rage quitting when they didn't, apparently. But one of the things that got brought up that I noticed is that my match, the only match I had during the tournament, like I said, as in the first round, my opponent never showed, so I won by timeout. But I didn't have any lag in mine, and I'm not sure if any of the people I was playing with, any of the people I met before the tournament had it in theirs. But the game seemed overall fair and was well played. Also, another thing about Street Fighter 5, and I'm pretty sure they had it in Street Fighter 4, they might have had it even way back in Street Fighter 3. But in online play, they got what's known as rankings. While you can level up your character outside of the rankings go from rookie to warlord. And in between, there's bronze, silver, platinum, gold, grandmaster, diamond, and other rankings. I'm not sure how you do them in order. I never actually checked. But I know rookie, bronze, super bronze, and ultra bronze are the lowest of the levels. Because I'm actually a member of the bronze. At least for the moment. That's probably going to change now with my luck. And I'll be back in the rookie section. But anyways, like I said, I had fun with it. And I got to see some surprising matches as different levels got to fight each other. There'd be like one level where we had Super Diamond versus Super Diamond, another one where you had a bronze taking on a gold or super gold. You had rookies taking on grandmasters and higher. I'm serious. It was interesting to see in this tournament. And there was a number of them where it was surprising upsets, where it was like you'd see one character, and you know they didn't have a lot to them, but at the same time they were good. So it made up for it because the person figured out how to use it to their advantage when they took on somebody else who was of a higher rank, and it helped, and they would upset them in the match. Now, and I do want to congratulate the winner of that particular tournament, because I went back and I watched their matches, and they were great all through it. Especially in the finals, when it looked like there for a moment the person they were facing was going to come back and win it, and it turned in, and then they turned it around and just burned them through the end of it. But it was a great match. And I don't mean burned as in they beat the crap out of them completely. I mean, the fights were actually close most of the time, and they ended up, but the person went from being up 1-0 to it being 1-1, and then they turned around and took it 2 matches straight to win the tournament. 3-1 in the finals, and it was wonderful for that reason, because you never know who's actually going to win if one person, because I faced people who were underrated outside of it because they either haven't tried league play where the rankings matter, where the rankings get, where you can be elevated ranking wise and earn what's known as league points. And enough league points, you move up to the next state, the next level. I faced a rookie who fought, I would swear they were super bronze or higher at minimum with the way they fought. And that was in a casual match. Now, if they actually did it, I'd like to see what they could do. But anyways, back to the tournament. Sorry, I keep getting off track. I'll admit that is one of my problems. But anyways, I got to see it as it was. And this particular one, the only complaint I really have with the tournament was the replays were the only way to view matches that had already finished. One way they could improve this is by, like, fighters could be allowed to view other matches as they're occurring if they're not in a match currently. Like anybody who's been eliminated from from the tournament, or anybody who's waiting on the next round to start, could click on that match and pick it up from whatever point they're at. Or it could do the whole synchronization thing and it fly through that 1 minute, fly through in order to catch it up, and them to pick it up from that point. Not necessarily have to go back and just watch the replays over and over, and just be stuck watching replays as their only way. And be like, oh, so that's how they won. They could watch it live and it would be more realistic. Again, this is only my opinion though, but like I said, overall, Street Fighter V, I actually can't wait for the Champion Edition to come out, because I'm wanting to see if it's going to be anything like Street Fighter 2 was when they released a Champion Edition of it, with how tough it was, but how great it was to play. But again, I want to see what they can come up with, and like I said, other than my minor complaints about the game, and like I said, I may not be the only one who has those complaints, so Capcom may want to look into those things, but like I said, other than my minor issues with the game, and it may just be me on those particular situations, the game I do recommend playing over most other fighting games. And this comes from a person, like I said, I haven't played Street Fighter games since high school, and I hadn't played Mortal Kombat since Armageddon came out, and it was so bad that I couldn't play the next one. And I couldn't play the next one because I was afraid it was going to be really bad. Turns out the reboot was actually great. And then I got Mortal Kombat X, and then I got Mortal Kombat 11. Like I said, Mortal Kombat 11 actually got me to where I was interested in seeing what if Street Fighter 5 was actually worth it, with what I had seen. But another thing I enjoyed, I mean, and before I leave, there is one more thing. I like how Ken and Ryu, sorry, again, I'm not sure the proper pronunciation, but when they fight, I like how it has changed them how their characters have evolved over the years to be different, while they still practice most of the same fighting moves, such as the Hadouken and the Hurricane Kick. I think that's what's called, that where they jump up in the air and spin around like 3 or 4 times. Well, depending on how strong you make it, 3 or 4 times. I like how, how it evolved, because while Ryu does it for all 3 of his, kick-wise, Ken only does it for 2. During the 3rd one, he goes into a different style of it, where he does like an overhead and turns it into an attack. As another thing on YouTube I saw stated, Ken's characteristics became more aggressive rather than defensive and powerful. Ken actually reminds me a lot of like how boxing does. Whereas Ryu, again, whatever, his brother, as most people have come to call him, would do power and technique. Ken became more aggressive, so he started using speed to his advantage and finding ways to combo a lot of the things he does. So that, in turn, while one focused on power, the other one would focus with speed and equal it out. But they both had technique that was similar, while at the same time their characters evolved differently. And it shows, even in their endings in the games, how different they became over time. And if you haven't played Street Fighter 5, again, I highly recommend getting it and getting the upgrade kit for when it comes out, as the upgrade kit's going to include majority, not all, the majority of the costumes that the characters have had. I mean, I spent like $7, $8 at Christmas for the game, and then paid for the upgrade at like $24 or something like that on the PlayStation Network. And from what I've seen, it wasn't a waste to get the game. It's actually been fun, and I've played it a lot. And I plan to continue playing it. So if you want to find me on PlayStation Network, Nightshade1321. But otherwise, have fun, guys. It was nice talking to you about the tournament. And please leave a comment on how you feel about Street Fighter game, on your idea of the fighting games, Street Fighter in particular in this case, as well as what your feelings are, as well as comments on what you'd like for me to do a future video on. Again, I read these comments. I like seeing what people have to say. So, I look forward to seeing you out there later.